Welcome to Legal Beagle.
Good afternoon. We are here today with another exciting legal podcast with Legal Beagle. I am the host today and proud owner of Lyke Law PLLC. Today we have a special guest with us, and that is my assistant, who is Judy Johnson. She is seated to the right of me. Say hello, Judy.
Hi.
And she's going to be helping me today with a couple scenarios so that you can learn a little bit more about family law and custody too as well. And we would like to just dive in with today's session and start with our very first scenario. Let's begin, shall we?
Mm-hmm. I want to get a divorce, but I'm not sure if I can afford to live without health insurance.
So let me get this straight. You're coming today, you want to get a divorce, and you cannot afford health insurance right now by yourself. So you kind of need your spouse's insurance. Is that what you're trying to say to me?
Correct.
All right. So I want to let you know that there are two ways of actually getting divorced. There's one that you can get divorced, and then there's two that you can have a legal separation. Now, there is a difference between legal separation and divorce, and that is a legal separation is called separate maintenance agreement. And that separate maintenance agreement is basically this: everything that a divorce does. So a divorce will go and separate your property. It'll separate your retirement, your vehicles, and it does everything equitably, fair and equitably. But same thing with the separate maintenance agreement. The difference between that is that the separate maintenance agreement will actually allow you to be still married, but you are actually just legally separated. Now, if you got married while you had a separate maintenance agreement, the order in of itself, then that would be considered bigamy. So that's against the law. So you could not get married if you had a legal separation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So the reason why we would suggest a legal separation instead of a divorce is so that individuals could actually continue on with the health insurance. And also there's another reason why we do that. And do you know why that is, Judy?
No.
Okay, that is because of the fact some people have religious reasons because they do not want to get divorced. And so what we can do is we can actually do a legal separation instead of a finality of the divorce. And that helps a lot of people that which is against their religion, so that they can actually go and just be legally separated and not divorced. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So with a legal separation, you'll be able to actually continue on with your spouse's health insurance.
Okay.
So that would probably be a better idea for you than getting divorced. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
All right. Do you have a next scenario for us?
Yes. My husband and I wish to get divorced, and I make $592,000 a year, and he stays home watching Netflix and binges on episodes on Sling and streamlines everything. He does not help with any marital bills, and I cannot take living like this any longer. We have been married for 9 years. I cannot take his laziness any longer. Will I be paying him an alimony for life?
Well, first of all, I'd like you to understand the terms a little bit. So alimony, we no longer use. It's called spousal support. So first of all, spousal support is we go through the Sparks v. Sparks factors. Now, that's a case that we usually use, and it shows like the number of years that you've been married, the health of the parties, the income that each person makes, the ability of the person to be able to pay. You stated that you could make $592,000 a year, correct?
Yes.
All right. And that's actually what you are earning right now. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So what we have to look at is we have to look at some of the other factors, like the ability of the person to pay, but also the person, their needs. So we have to look at too the property, how much property they're going to receive in a divorce setting or a separate maintenance, as we talked about in the last scenario. But what also we need to look at too is your net income. And we have to look at too so you stated that he sits at home, and that just drives you crazy, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So some of the questions we would ask is, does he have the ability to work? Does he have a driver's license? So if he's healthy and he has a driver's license, there's work available. Like for instance, if he has, let's say, a certificate in some kind of training, in labor, or if he went to law school, or if he went to another school and received a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, we would look at to see what kind of jobs are available in the community. So then that way we can actually impute the individual's income. And so that way it's not going to be zero income for that individual. And what that means is that we take the spousal support factors, and what we do is we have what is called margin software, and we plug in the numbers. So we'll put in your 592,000 because that's what you gross. And then we would put in, let's say that by the time we looked at his ability to work and the other factors we just talked about, we would look at, let's say that he earned maybe $70,000 to $100,000 a year. So we would place in $100,000 compared to your $592,000. And then that computer actually takes out the taxes. So then we would get your net income, and we could see what spousal support you would have to pay the individual. Now, I will tell you, like I said, the spousal support goes and looks at the number of years that you've been married. And you've been married for 9 years, so that does not mean that you're going to have to pay for life. The longer that you've been married, now, if you are married to this individual for 25 years or more, the longer you're going to have to pay spousal support, and you may have to pay spousal support for life. And so I would suggest, if your marriage is not working, obviously I always suggest that you go to counseling, but did you try counseling and it didn't work?
No, we haven't tried counseling.
Okay. Well, maybe try counseling first. Marriage counseling is always a good thing. I always try to make sure clients do that first before they dive into this divorce, because once you divorce somebody, it's a finality. So before you spend that money on a divorce, maybe you can, because sometimes it's too easy to go and call it quits. And, we do have a no-fault state here in the state of Michigan. So it's always best to try to make things work and see if maybe a counselor could help you with those. But going back to your question, we have what is called modified and non-modifiable spousal support. And usually when we have 9 years of marriage, we would want to make it non-modifiable. So then that way a person cannot come back later on and say, oh, I want some more spousal support after, let's say it was for 5 years, a 5-year period, and we say, it's modifiable spousal support, then that person could actually go to the court and go back and get more spousal support. So a lot of times, we explain to you what the difference between non-modifiable and modifiable, and each set of facts are different for each person. So yours, it seems like you would want to do a non-modifiable spousal support. So then that way you're not going to have to come back later on after 5 years or 6 years or whatever the numbers are that you guys agree on, and the numbers come out onto the margin software. You won't have to go and worry about more spousal support being handed over to the other person. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then we always place a little clause in there, at least I do. It's called Staples v. Staples, and that is that it's forever barred. So that means that you just cannot come back and ask for more spousal support from the court if we have a non-modifiable spousal support provision. Does that make sense?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So does that answer your question today?
Yes.
All right. Well, do you have any other questions for us today, scenarios?
Well, we have 3 children. Their ages are 10, 8, and 5, and I'm a stay-at-home dad who watches the children on a regular basis. The mother continues to have extramarital affairs. I want to shield the children from my hurt, and the children know that their mother's having several affairs. I want full custody and full legal custody and no parenting time for the mother. Can you make that happen? I want to be divorced.
Okay, I can understand why you're coming to us, and I can understand why that there is a divorce approaching soon because of the several affairs. That's very hurtful, and I can understand that Did you have an affair on your spouse?
No.
No? Okay. So you have 3 children and you're the one who's been primarily taking care of the children. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, what I would do is I would explain to you the divisions of property. And, we talked about that previously before. But your question to us is mostly about custody. And what the custody is we look at the established custodial environment and who does the child look to for love, guidance, affection, and who does that child go to? For instance, a Band-Aid, or the child comes to you for if the child was hurt. Does the child do that when the child's hurt primarily?
Yes.
Okay. Although your significant other has had these extramarital affairs and then it hurts you, the children should not be knowing about these extramarital affairs, because you don't want to have children involved in divorces.
Right.
That could be the worst thing for you, and that can actually have a negative impact on you if you were trying to get full physical custody and full legal custody. Now, I will tell you, just because there's an extramarital affair, that doesn't mean that you get full physical custody. We have to go through what is called the best interest factors. And those are 12 factors that we go through, and we use those to go and try to figure out who has the established custodial environment. And like we said, who does the children look to for the guidance, the affection, and discipline. So with that being said, your extramarital affair, although I understand that it does hurt you and, significantly is very emotional upon you, and it's probably taken a toll on the children. But what we have to look at is one of the factors, which is factor F, and that's the morale clause under the best interest factors. And what that factor says is that if there's an extramarital affair, that's just not going to be counted just because there's extramarital affairs. It actually has to go and affect the child somehow. And how does it affect the child? We look at, does the person go and spend most of the time period with this person who they're having an affair with? Does it take away the needs and capacity for them to provide for that child? Those are some of the things we look at. Or we look at the morale clause and we look at and see, okay, is the child having an effect because maybe they saw something that was inappropriate that was going on with this extramarital affair? So do you understand that we just can't go and get full physical custody just because of the fact is that you're hurting and that there is this emotional toll on yourself? We actually have to prove that it's severely affecting the child or affecting the child in some manner. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I would say this, though, because you are the primary person that the children go to and you've been taking care of them on a daily basis, I'm sure that you've actually are the one who takes them to the doctor's appointments, the medical appointments, like such as the dentist, get their haircuts, making sure that their lunches are prepared.
Right.
Those are all the things that you're doing, correct?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So those are part of the best interest factors. And what I like to do is I like to share with you a best interest factors sheet before you leave today. And it has examples there, and you can write some of those examples and scenarios that you're involved in. And that shows that how you're going to be it'll be examples to show why you shouldn't be the one that has full physical custody, because we want to show to the court that you do have the ECE, which is the established custodial environment. Does that make sense?
Yes. Uh-huh.
All right. Very good.
I live in Genesee County and I want to file for divorce. However, I recently received a sign-on bonus with a company that's located in Livingston County. I will be earning more money and receive a larger pension, and my husband and I have been living as roommates. I don't want him to know about my larger pension, and I do not want to share my pension with him. And can I file in Livingston County for my divorce?
Oh, that's a very good question. So let me get this straight. You are actually living in Genesee County right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now, have you lived in the state of Michigan for more than 180 days?
Yes.
Okay. So currently you could file. No, well, let me ask you this. Have you lived in Genesee for more than 10 days?
Yes.
Okay. So you could file in Genesee County, but it sounds to me like you're getting a better job and a sign-in bonus over in Livingston County. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you're going to get this like great pension over there too as well. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't want to go and disclose to your husband that you actually are getting a larger income and larger pension, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, a couple good things here is that if you do live, first of all, we can file right now in Genesee County. However, if you do move to Livingston County for your job, you have to live there 10 days prior to filing the complaint for divorce. And then we can file there because you already met the 180-day rule of the jurisdictional issues. So basically, you have to live in the state of Michigan for 180 days prior to filing the complaint for divorce. And you have to live in a county 10 days prior to filing for divorce. So if you moved tomorrow, we could actually still file in Genesee. But if you move to Livingston and you want to file later, I would suggest that you can, if you're going to move there permanently, that's going to be your domicile where you're going to hang your hat at night, then I would suggest that you maybe file over in Livingston County. So you have that choice right now. Now, as to the disclosure of assets, unfortunately, if I have some bad news for you, Judy, if you don't disclose your assets, there is a case out there called Sands v. Sands. And that means that if you don't disclose something, they could get the entire asset. Or there's another case out there that says that you have to go to court. And if he finds that out, you'll have to pay attorney fees and maybe, the fee to actually go and have that split your retirement because of the fact is you didn't disclose it in the first place. So there are some repercussions on that. And I would always suggest that you be upfront and honest and disclose those assets so that you don't lose the entire asset. And because you don't want to lose what you actually made. But I will say the good news is on this is that the sooner that you do file for divorce, you won't have to go and give him as much of your pension. So because we go from, there's a Byington versus Byington case, and that what we do is we start off with that case, and that starts off at the beginning of your marriage up until the end of your divorce, right? So that means we separate that, all your property, fairly and equitably. Now, just because we say that case, there is case law that says that if the court believes that it's more fair and equitable to go and separate the assets during the time period of separating or filing a complaint because you guys are separated, then we can do that as well. So most likely what we could do is we could actually have you move to a different county. And if you're living in Livingston, you file there. And once you file for the complaint for divorce, you're not living with your husband at that time. So then that way we can start the separation time period then. And then that way you're not giving him, some of your pension from your new job. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would probably be a good thing for you. Okay?
Mm-hmm. My significant other has been charged with a domestic violence, and we have 2 children that reside in our house. The police came last night and took the person to jail, and my children saw what was happening to me and how I was assaulted, and a chair was thrown at me. The children were crying, and I was kicked while shielding the children. I still love the person, but my family thinks I should get a divorce and protect the children.
Sounds like you went through a lot last night with the police being called. And so were all 3 of your children present during that time period?
Yes.
Okay. And did they see that you were injured?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have bruises?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing is I would like to know, did you go to the hospital?
No.
No? I would suggest, first of all, even though this is not legal representation, I always want to make sure that you're okay, because one of the things is that, the children always need to have a good mother. And, you shielded your children, so I can tell that you're a good mom. But what you need to do is make sure that you're physically okay too as well, because sometimes we might get hurt and something happens. Maybe you fell and hit your head. You want to make sure you don't have a concussion or anything of that nature. All right. So the first thing, make sure you get yourself checked out. But the second thing is that what we can do is in the interim, we can go file what is called a personal protection order. Because of the fact that the person is actually your husband, we just have to put that one occurrence down for the personal protection order. And normally the courts will go ahead and enter that personal protection order. Obviously, ethically, I can't guarantee that that will happen. But when you go and say that you're fear for your life and there's irreparable harm that's going to happen, a lot of times they will sign that so that you have the safety of your children and yourself from that situation. Now, I will let you know, I understand that you still love them, and I would suggest that you get some counseling. Maybe you could try La Casa, some counseling in the meantime to help you understand that about domestic violence, because there is a circle of domestic violence, and it would help with you understanding the situation, because you are not to blame for this. Okay, that's one thing that we'd like you to know. And second thing is that we want to make sure that your children are protected at all time periods. And I realize that you do still love him, but he may have a situation there or may have a problem. We don't know, was alcohol involved at all?
Not that I know of.
Okay. So even if there's alcohol or if there's anger issues, we need to make sure that the children are safe and you're safe. So temporarily, I would suggest that you go stay at either a friend's house and that he doesn't know about, or go stay at a relative's house until we can get that personal protection order in place so that we can give you some temporary relief there. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to go and keep that PPO on him, but I'm just saying this for temporary relief right now. Let's try to keep you safe and the children safe, okay? Because sometimes what happens is they get out of jail and they're very upset that you actually called the police or the police were called. And we want to make sure, again, that the children are safe and you are safe. That's the biggest concern that I have right now. The second thing is that your parents are correct and your friends are correct about going and making sure that possibly that you should go talk to an attorney about getting a divorce. But the reason why is that I always believe in second chances, but when it comes to children and domestic violence, we got to make sure that your children, again, are protected. That's the most important thing, because CPS can come and enter into your lives. And then if you're not going and protecting them from somebody that is maybe harming them, then you could possibly have your children taken from your home. And we don't want that to happen, right?
Right.
Okay. So, and the other thing is that I would suggest too that you understand, like, self-esteem issues are a big importance. And so, remember this, that like I said before, you are not the fault of the situation, that sometimes the other person has to go and get counseling themselves and learn what's going on. And maybe it's, they're going to blame it on work or they're going to blame it on you. But again, you are not to be blamed, right? Yes. Neither are the children. And your most important thing is protecting the children. And so I would suggest that we get the PPO in place first. And then personally, I would suggest if you are ready then to go file for a divorce, then we go and file for divorce, but we go and make sure that you're protected again and have what is called exclusive use of the marital residence. And that way, individuals of his friends or himself cannot come in and enter the house or stay there with the children. And the children do not have to live in fear, or you do not have to live in fear, right?
Right.
Okay. And then that way we can get you started on that. But I would suggest go see a counselor, try to get some therapy on that situation. Maybe the children need to have some therapy too as well. in the interim time period. And La Casa is a great group. There's all I can give you a couple other counselors that are wonderful to use. But then the other thing is I want you to start putting little post-its on all over your house that say, I'm a good person, I'm intelligent, I'm beautiful, I am smart. And those things help you to get through the rough times, because when someone keeps calling you something, you start believing the negativity. And one negative thing, you need 10 positives. So I always suggest that, even though it's not legal advice, it's always a good thing to have that positive feedback. And then what we'll do is once we start your divorce, we'll also try to get you into some counseling, but self-defense too as well, like maybe some kickboxing to get that self-esteem going. That will help you quite a bit. And always a makeover is great too. I know that sounds kind of funny, but it always, kind of gives you a fresh look, and it makes you feel better about yourself and makes you feel like you can take on the world, because going through a divorce when you love somebody is a very difficult situation. Right. It's like going through a death sometimes, a divorce can. But you will get through it, and you will have a good attorney and good law firm that helps you too as well. So does that answer your questions today?
It does. Thank you very much.
And is that all the scenarios that you have today?
It is, yes.
All right. Well, today we would like to thank you, Judy, for coming in. I know it was short notice today to do this, but I think we gave a lot of great information today to our folks out there. And so that ends our podcast today. And we want to welcome you to like us on Facebook, and make sure you click the link, share it with somebody else, and make sure you like Lyke Law on Facebook. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.